Good morning, everyone. This is Otsukimi. Who else would it be? This is the Knowhere market update for Wednesday. Glad you can make it today. Just some preliminary things. I don't really have a lot. We do have the ETF news that happened earlier this week. I mentioned that in a mini market update yesterday. It's about 7 minutes long. I talk about that, but the gist of it is this isn't a victory per se. It is, like, obviously, we see that on the charts, but the ETF isn't approved necessarily. So go watch that if you want. It's free in my Discord. All you gotta do is join the Discord. It's free to join. And if you can't find a link, just go ahead and hit me up and get the link for that. Um, other than that, there's a lot of other contextual things going on. I have my observations with Otsu video on Monday. That was a weekly video, and I did cover a potential pump, and we got that. So that video is still relevant. I've been bullish this whole time, despite the drop that we had. I did not think that our drop that we had, towards the middle of the month, was really overly concerning. I thought that was relatively par for the course of the price action that we were receiving. It's pretty normal when we have a 2 month slow bleed that we kind of have a capitulation, so to speak, and then we kind of start over. And that's what I talked about in my mini markets about subtrends, trends and subtrends as well. They all ebb and flow together. So this is not a surprise for me. A lot of people were posting doom and gloom again, going like thinking that we're going to 4 digit Bitcoin. And I don't think so. I don't even think we're going to get close, in my opinion. And that's okay. We can differ in our opinion. That's completely fine. But the point is, you got to expect a bounce here or there, at least at a minimum. Okay, so a lot of people are smarter about it than others, and that's not a jab at anybody. I'm just saying, like, we need to think about this strategically. So that's the preliminary things. If you want a weekly perspective, the observations with Otsu is still relevant. This video, Nowhere Market Update, is more of just a daily perspective, and I also focus more on alts. I'll go into Bitcoin in just a second. I'll go into Ethereum also in just a second. But I'm going to skip some of the other ones and go into some of these other alts as well. I need to diversify the Nowhere Market Updates a little bit more from the observations with Otsu. A lot of people ask me about Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and I cover those quite a bit. So I cover those in observations. I cover those in mini markets. So look for those. Um, this is mainly for alts. If you want more of your own choice of alts, I do chart request in Knowhere HQ, my Discord channel. Those are usually posted on Tuesdays. The one for this week is actually going to be posting after this video. So if you're watching this video, there's chances are I'm recording the other one or it's already done. So go ahead and wait for that. If you want me to do a chart request for you, post it in the Discord. Do not post it on my Twitter or X profile. I will only answer the ones that are posted in my Discord channels. That way I can aggregate those. And so it's a lot cleaner for me. Like, just I'm willing to help you out. Just help me out a little bit. Okay, that's pretty much only thing I ask for, and it's free. The chart requests are all free, so I think that's pretty reasonable to ask. So anyway, those are preliminaries. Let's get started. All right, focusing on Bitcoin first. There's a few things we see. I kind of got it marked out already because I talked about in the market video. Go ahead and watch that if you want a detailed response. I spent about 10 minutes on that. So I'm only going to spend a few minutes here to focus on other coins. But the thing is, we had the big impulse from the ETF news. We had the drop down. I'm looking for a retest. This is a 4 hour version of that. That's why these levels are mapped out how they are. 16 or 20, I'm sorry, 26,700 is where I'm looking to retest roughly. That's my first option. The second option is 26,200. And so that's kind of where I'm looking at. That's going to kind of match also the RSI 50 position that I like as well. That's pretty much it for Bitcoin. I think it has to retest this. I've discussed these before when we have news based, especially government related news based things with Bitcoin. They tend to get faded every single time. So I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that fade. I'm looking for a swing up. We absolutely do not want this to go below, because that means this was a deviation. Not only that, but the ETF news was basically null and void. I think we have some ETF news coming up Friday as well. I'm not necessarily big on the news thing. You guys know that, but If we, let's say we get some bad news and then this blows through the level, that's going to be pretty bad. And so we'll see how that goes. I don't think so. I think that we should hold the structurally, we should hold analysis, we should hold, and that's the thing. If we focus too much on the news, you might as well just scrap the videos, scrap the charts, do everything, and only focus on the news. The problem is if the news creates moves, which I don't believe so necessarily, despite the fact I'm looking at a big freaking candle right after the news event, it's a little complicated. But if you focus on just news for moves, you're never going to get into a position to capitalize on a move. Okay. If you try to buy, let's say, for example, you waited for the news to buy, you're underwater right now. And so the point is, news based things pump or dump respectively because the market allows for that to happen. Okay, the market is susceptible to those moves being valid versus those moves causing the moves themselves, if that makes sense. So, long story short, it's definitely worth its own video. It's very technical, and I could get into that, but I think it does go over a lot of heads. And so there's a danger in that, right? So if you buy, you're underwater. So that's the thing. I want to wait for the move instead. And so if this, let's say we get bad news, it gets blown out, then I get stopped out. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Okay, that's just how it works sometimes. I'd rather focus on that than try to be at the whim of every news-based article because you know, and I talked about this on Monday in my observations video, you know that they're out to get you as far as like people want you to be stopped out. People, the market even wants you to do to do that. Like the price action is deceptive sometimes. News-based stuff is deceptive sometimes, quite often actually. So we need to play it smart. So other than that, I think Bitcoin looks relatively clean. So I'm gonna go ahead and add Ethereum at the same time. We're gonna kind of go through this together. I mean, we've had a slight red day, like I've talked about my 2% rule. We're within that 2% threshold, so this is a normal day for me. I still do not see what is wrong with just having a red day once in a while. I feel like that's healthy for the markets. Anyway, going to Ethereum, very similar thing on the 4 hour. We can kind of go on the daily, see that. I'll just get rid of that because that was just leftover from something. So we had the breaker move. So when it blows past the top like that, that's a bullish breaker. We should retest that. We are almost there. We zoom in to the 4 hour, we get a better perspective on that. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at. We had pretty much four local highs, roughly about three and a half. And so that's a really clean test retest point. And so this also shows it's a long story, but the supply and demand, the demand was just way too strong yesterday because of the news. So it needs to retest to validate that demand level. So that's why fades exist. They need to validate what was, you know, basically blown through yesterday. So you could do something like this. I mean, you could long currently if you want to. It's not going to make too much of a difference. But you could long somewhere around here, have your stop somewhere below, at least at a minimum here or below. The farther down you go, the safer it is, and maybe do something like that. Not the best R&R, but that is a safe one. We're above the 50. So this looks pretty good. I think Ethereum looks a little bit more healthier in this regard than Bitcoin. A little cleaner, but it still needs a retest, right? There is a chance that we can go down below. So I mentioned that more in my markets videos. But same thing as Bitcoin in a sense, looking for a retest and looking to buy. I think that pump is valid, but I do think it needs to fade first. So other than that, that's pretty much Ethereum. I've discussed that in the other video. That was, I mean, it was posted 12 hours ago, so nothing's really changed since then. In fact, my charts have been more validated since then. So go ahead and watch that. Now I'm going to go to some alts. All right, first things first, Matic. It's going to be the first one on my altcoin list, and I'm just going to go through some of these. Some of these alts, they're not really good or bad. They're just coins I haven't talked about in a while. And then towards the end of the video, I'll talk about a couple I got my eye on. But overall, a lot of altcoins in general don't really look that good. There's some smaller market cap ones that look decent, but I don't really want to mention them because I don't want to influence the decisions on that. But Matic is interesting to me because we did kind of have the pump up, and this is the weekly chart, as you can see. But we've pretty much faded this so far. As there's the pump up that we had, it's already faded most of the way down, and that's going to be likely the same thing with a lot of these alts already. So they're going to fade, and that's what I was saying with Bitcoin and Ethereum, especially. Um, they're going to get faded. And here's the thing too: the ETF focuses more on Bitcoin, Ethereum, even Bitcoin Cash versus altcoins like random altcoins, for example. And yeah, I know sometimes some of the ETFs don't even cover Bitcoin; they cover Ethereum only. But it's a long, complicated thing. The point is, the attention and the focus is on the majors. And this is what I talked about with the altcoin, rally theory that I talked about that we might get later this year. I think the primary focus is going to be Bitcoin and Ethereum for now. And then towards the end of the year, I think we might get a fade from Bitcoin and Ethereum and focus on altcoins finally. That being said, I do want to cover some alts. That way you can get into a position because some of these look prime for next year. And so some of them I think are probably too late to make any money on the upside for this year, at least for its maximum potential. And I think, but next year I think it'll be good. And so we'll look at some examples. And Matic is one of them. And we're on the Binance chart. You can see I already have these labels figured out. So we had kind of a rounded bottom here, so to speak, with a continuation that was back in 2021. That's my foundation for the current level. We retested that level, kind of had a breaker impulse with that, and now we're kind of resting there. But now you can see we're kind of struggling at that moment, at that little point. So we got a few things going on. First of all, we have a weekly bullish divergence, so that's a good thing. And so this is where I'm wanting to look at places to buy. I want to buy Matic potentially. It's not on my tier one stack. It's not on my you know top 10 list or whatever, but it is on my B list. And that's what I'm interested in, right? So we do have the weekly divergence. We do have the Arun bullish wedge. This is very good. I like this setup a lot. I am just really waiting for two things. One, I'm waiting for the 50 RSI, but that might take too long on the weekly. So I'm really just looking for a break of that trend. That's pretty much all I'm doing. And so we can kind of analyze this here on the daily and kind of calibrate this just a little bit to kind of get our perspective. So this is what I'm looking at, right? And so we can even make a double line here for the wick section. And so this is what I'm looking at. If we can hold in between those two lines, even above the top one, then I think this is a good long term hold, like 18 months kind of long. So we'll see. I'm not saying that I'll be profitable per se, but that is what I'm looking for. If that doesn't work, then I'm looking for this retest back to the 35-cent line, but I don't think that's a good idea given all that I mean, typically for this long of a time frame, you don't want things to retest twice. So this is currently retesting that block. It still looks healthy despite the fact that it doesn't. If you're confused about what I just said, that's exactly a line that I mentioned in my observations video on Monday. The dangerous perception of price action. It's really worth it. I'm adding topics to my analysis for Mondays, and so it's really good. So anyway, this is what I'm looking at for Matic, and I think that's a good long term hold. And I think a lot of people tend to forget, um, like weekly, like divergences. This is not a divergence on the 2 week, but people don't even really pay much attention to divergences, unfortunately, and which is it honestly it blows my mind because they're so obvious. They are like I see so many people wasting their time over and over again. I know why people don't because they don't happen very often on higher time frames. But that's where you should start looking at to size up. That's the thing. Like I've seen some people make 100 trades this past week, really. And I'm like, well, okay, how much money did you make though? So can you make that in half the trades? But if you made good money, can you make that in half the trades that you did? Why or why not? Why can't you just size up? I don't really understand the process. Maybe and everybody's a different trader, so I respect that. So maybe that's what it is. So anyway, that's Matic. Little daily 1 week perspective. Let's go on to some others. Okay, Adam is another one. Cosmos, whatever it is. So Again, here's the weekly perspective. A little bit messed up here as far as its layout. But you had your previous run, you had the impulse, you had the markdown. Now you got the kind of consolidation. And so it's not quite at the markup phase yet. We did break below this, so that's concerning to me. So I think I'm just going to get rid of that and probably just, I don't know what that alert's there. So I'll just keep it for now, I guess. But I'm pretty sure we'll just get a retest of this marker here. And I think maybe that was a daily thing. I'm not sure why. Yeah, looks like it was a daily thing. So I think we could just go ahead and go down to down to the $6 range. We do have a divergence here, so that's another thing to be concerned about. But this is another example of one of these alts, right? And so let's zoom up to have this discussion. Um, this is another indication of like alts that are fading versus pumping, and you can't even tell where the ETF pumped necessarily if you didn't know what day it was on, because it's not really reacting. A lot of these coins are not reacting the way that you should, and that's okay. I think again the ETF news is based off of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other some other majors, whereas the altcoins not so much like these type of alts. So I think people are looking in the wrong places and people are doing the wrong things. You should not be buying altcoins like these just yet. I think, however, you should be looking at these and setting alerts for when to buy. So you could buy something down here and then, just it's one of those things like you just buy it and you forget it. So you buy here, let's say $6 even, right? And then you just forget that you owned it. And then you go all the way up to like 40, 50, let's say it goes up to 60 bucks, right? So now you've gained a 10x on your return. And 10x is pretty good for a coin like Atom, which is probably going to do that perhaps. I mean, Atom is not a chain that has died per se. It's I think the EVM based chains will do better. They'll outperform non EVM chains in the next cycle. And Atom is not an EVM chain, so I understand that. However, I do think Atom has a good chance. I mean, it's got a lot of good developers. It also goes under the radar. So you got a few things. It could be a blue chip. It may not. I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle with that. I think Matic will do better than Atom because Matic is an EVM coin. Cosmos is not. Chainlink, which we'll talk about in a second, is not either one as well. It's an Ethereum layer 2 coin. So we'll see how that affects it and kind of go into there. But the thing is, like a coin like Atom has the potential. It has a good long term setup coming, and I think it'd be worth a shot to add. For me personally, maybe like add 0.5% risk. Just something small. So if that's if you have $100,000 for example, that's like $500 I think. So and that could turn into that could turn into 5,000 by just holding it or whatever. You size accordingly. See what I'm saying? So I think overall, Atom's not a terrible coin to look at for the future, especially when you have this big section right here. This is pretty much a retest point of here as well. So it's one of these things. If this fails, it's going to die anyway, right? So you might as well. We had this discussion in 2017, even 2019. When you get to these kind of lows, it's one thing almost always occurs, and everybody thinks about how dead this market is. We're never going to recover, and I've seen that again in the past 2 months. And that's one. I've been pretty busy, in real life, so I haven't spent a lot of time on social media, on Twitter especially. But one thing that I saw was that everybody's doom and gloom, and I'm telling you, this is the exact replica of 2017 as far as its mood. Everybody thought the market was dead. Everybody thought it would never recover again. Nobody's interested in any charts. And I'm telling you, I've been there before. It changes. Okay. I'm not saying it will change necessarily, but I've seen it change. So I'm not going to be fooled by this doom and gloom stuff. Okay. I'm either going down with the ship or I'm going into freaking space. Okay. Doing one of the two. Okay. I'm not giving up. That's just definitely not giving up. So, and if you're not giving up either, it's very important to see coins like these that you could get a really good fire sale. Okay. So like imagine up here in the $40 range that you could get Atom at 6. See what I'm saying? And so that's I just don't want you to be one of them people that whine and cry 12 to 18 months from now, 24 months even, that you could have bought Atom at 6 and now it's at 600 or something like that. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't want you to be that guy, okay? I don't want you to regret stuff like this, okay? So, it's the same with Solana. Like, look at Solana. It used to be 260 and now it's like 20. Now it's like 2060. See what I'm saying? Like, you could um could easily 10x from here. And this is a coin. Solana, I think, is probably the biggest of all the altcoins, other than Ethereum, that has a lot of potential, and you just need to capitalize on it. I think this looks pretty good. I covered this in the market video, so I won't cover it in this video. But this has a lot of potential. Um, so it's yeah. I just want you to keep in mind, like, there's a lot of fire sales going on. Even XRP, I cover these. I think now that the SEC news is done, I think this is a good buy-in potentially as well. So a lot of these coins have fire sales going on. It's just a matter of when to buy and if you think it's worth holding. So, all right, Aave is another coin that I have an interest in, and we're kind of hovering below these lows. And so this is kind of that bouncing ball theory that we had discussed, way back in 2017, 2018. A lot of theories on that. In hindsight, it's gonna be one of these things that looks really dead simple, but it's really not. Like, a lot of people think that the bouncing ball theory is supposed to drop, and that's not necessarily true. It doesn't have to be. But the key thing here is I'm looking for a break of this trend line or this one down here. And if it goes down low, I think it's worth one buy opportunity, um, as low as $21. And this is something, if you can get like a buy-in on Aave at the 20s, I think that's really, really, really good. Because that might be a 20, 30x by the time we get to the next bull run, if we get that. So I think these coins are worth looking at and paying attention to on the daily. This doesn't really give us too much, right? We've already faded the pump from yesterday. We have the Aven bullish cross, but as far as the weekly and even the 3-day, which I won't go to, this could give you a good run, and I think this is a blue chip that's worth buying for the long run. So that's just another example. I'll probably give two more examples. I'm gonna do Chainlink, and I might do Pepe. I think, just to kind of roll it out. All right, so here is Chainlink on the 1 week chart, and we're kind of still hovering in this little area, and this is a consolidation area, not quite a mark up, mark down. As you can see, this does kind of look like a lower time frame or a higher time frame version of Bitcoin on its lower time frame, I should say. But this is really simple because you're going to just play the break. It's really, really, really simple. And so we did have a spring kind of here. The problem is, or it's kind of a deviation, not really spring. A lot of people said it was a spring. A lot of people thought we would go higher, and we have not. But I would probably just go ahead and extend this out to the wicks as well, and just play the break of that. Because I've seen patterns like this that play when you play the break. That is pretty much the play of all plays to play. So if we get this high, let's say 9.6, so let's say you get a buy-in of 10, you probably want to hold that $10 because it's probably never going to go back below this range again. So you could DCA, you could do other things as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how our performance is for the rest of the year. A lot of people have concerns about the market. I'm personally not one of them. I don't think the economy is going to go to crap. I think it already had gone to crap. And what we are seeing in the economy today are the effects of people hiding that crappy market conditions from years ago. So that's what we're kind of seeing here. I don't think the market, I don't think the housing market's going to crash. I don't think the stock market's going to crash. I'm very contrarian right now versus a lot of people in the market. So I do want you to keep that in mind as a disclaimer. Like, I am taking a different view. That doesn't mean I'm better or worse than anybody else. This is just what I see on the markets. I'm not mad that somebody might think that I'm wrong or stupid. Like, I don't care in a sense, but also I'm I'm open to look at data, share data, and have discourse. Okay, so I'm not offended. I have zero emotions in any of these markets just because I got to operate that way. So, and I could have a little bit of autism. So, anyway, this is what I see. Um, this is a good potential coin to look at, but I think you just need to play the break of that. And so we'll go to Pepe, which has much more different tempo than the rest of these coins, because it doesn't have the price history. But this did bring up a lot of discussion. I don't know if is there a chart that looks better than this? This looks pretty bad. Is it KuCoin? Doesn't look much better, but maybe I used it apparently. So anyway, here's the daily chart. I guess that was a previous thing, so I'll get rid of that. And so, honestly, I'm not a big fan of Pepe because usually I'm not a big fan of meme coins outright. Like a lot of people just wanted to buy it and um, just tell people they need to buy it. It's the future, but like nobody believes you, man. Like nobody believes that meme coins are the future per se. Not that they can't be, but I'm like, come on, we can read. Just say you want to make money. So anyway, here's this. Here's the deviation. We went down here. I thought this might have been an Adam and Eve, but this actually broke down the level, so that's not a good sign. This does not qualify as an Adam and Eve any longer. We could have maybe a wedge, but You're really trying to grab for straws on that one. That's not necessarily valid for me. I mean, it could work, but not exactly something I'm looking at as a priority. I'm looking at here. I'm looking at this rejection. This needs to reclaim above that to kind of get involved in that. So it's one of those things. Like as far as meme coins, I'm more of a fan of Dogecoin. I'm not a fan of any of them, but I think Dogecoin has much more potential than Pepe or other ones. But I want Pepe to be known, or I want people to know about Pepe in this rejection right here. And so also we can kind of see. Let's see, where's that horizontal array? This is kind of your retest point of the lows, and we're kind of just right at that low marker, and so we're kind of floating down below. I think based on this structure, it probably will go down. It wouldn't surprise me. It doesn't matter if it does go down or not. It needs to reclaim this area. It needs to reclaim about the 1050, 1052. So that's pretty much Pepe, and that's the Knowhere market video. I hope that was satisfying for you. Like I said, if you want some chart requests, go ahead and put them in the Discord because I'm going to do them, a little bit later. It's about lunchtime for me, so I'm going to do it after lunch. Kind of go from there. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.